Sports Hour on News Talk 1440 WROK.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Schmidt along with Matt Nestor and producer Tom Warner. Today is March 14th. Yesterday was Friday the 13th, and for some high school basketball teams, they probably felt that was
the case. Moon. You know, I want to say one thing about Auburn as we kind of wrap up that from last night. You know, congrats to them on a great season. And I know that's probably not what they're thinking right now. They had a singular focus, I think, this year, in not just making the state finals, but I think they wanted to win. I think that was their focus all year, was winning it. But I think as they separate from this and look back, they beat some good teams this year. You know, Pike at the beginning of the year, the way that they dismantled Larkin early in the season.
Twice. They beat Larkin twice.
Yeah, the way they played at the Proviso West tournament, which is arguably one of the deepest and most talented tournaments this state has ever seen put together, beating Neuqua Valley and Normal at Hononegah, beating Boylan 3 times, going undefeated in the conference. Even if the conference was a little bit down, it was a great season for them, and I think they did a lot of things that, not many teams in this area have ever done. So I know they fell short of the goal that they wanted, but it was a great season for them.
And yesterday, about 2 o'clock, I got the list for the NIC 10 All-Conference report. I want to thank Jody Flynn at Belvedere North. He's been doing really good at getting me the stuff. Anyway, I guess Auburn reaps the benefits of that. Yep. Latewan Porter named MVP, following in the footsteps of Fred Van Fleet.
Yeah, and I think that was the right choice. I mean, you could have picked any number of players from that Auburn team for that award, but I do think he was kind of the glue that held it together offensively and defensively, and he played great. I'm nominee for Mr. Basketball.
Yeah. We haven't had. Fred was up for that, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
The rest of the first team, I'll read them real quickly. Only one junior on the first team, and that's Deontay Barnes.
Yeah, good player
from Belvedere. So he'll be back next year.
Yep.
Montel Brown from the rest of the guys are seniors. Montel Brown from Jefferson, Nyleek Cobb from Auburn, Tony Deeber from Boylan, Patrick Green from East, M.L. Moore from Jefferson, Giovanni Offord from Freeport, Alec Pena, who's kind of one of those quiet guys, but he played real well this year from Hononegah, and then Pittman and Porter, Antoine Pittman and Latewan Porter from Auburn, all make the first team. That's a quality first team. There's a lot of good kids, and there's probably some kids that probably could have made that in any different year, but that's pretty solid. But when you get 3 guys from a championship team, that's still pretty good.
It is pretty good.
And the fourth one made special mention.
Yeah, that's saying, and you could have argued for the fourth one and the fifth one, who probably deserved at least a special mention.
Majorly,
you could have made an argument for them being on the first team as well. We had kind of talked about that before. I didn't expect it to happen, but it wouldn't have been a shock to see all 5 of them on the first team because they were that good. I was surprised to see Bajorley didn't get a special mention. He gets a special mention in my book because he's a great player, especially at his size.
Should I put that on the story?
I think you should, yeah. Okay. But yeah, it's a great first team. And it does let you know. I mean, the conference as a whole was probably down, but there was still some good players here. I was somewhat surprised, but glad to see that Deontay Barnes made it on there. I think as you look ahead, I think that's a player that has the potential next year to be conference MVP. He's got some things to work on. He's got to be a little bit more aggressive and got to work on his shot a little bit. But he's got the kind of potential to really be a conference MVP next year and do some big things for Belvedere next year.
The other special mention, once again, DeLandre Dixon from Auburn was on special mention. Also, Ty Birkenpass, the big guy, is going to play football up in Wisconsin from Belvedere North. Ron Parrish from Belvedere, who had a great season.
He did.
John Parrish, so if your name is Parrish, you're in.
You're in, yeah.
Boylan, he made it as a special mention. And also Isaiah Ramos from Freeport. I got to see Freeport a lot because of the challenge. He's one of those guys that you knew was out there, but he kind of like Bajorley.
Yeah.
So for him to get that honor, that's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah, he did that when I saw them against Belvedere there in the regional semifinals as well, where you kind of wondered who was going to do stuff besides Offord, and you kind of looked down, all of a sudden he was scoring points and making plays, and you're like, oh, wow.
He can play, too.
Yeah, it's good to see them get mentioned with 2 players on there because they had a great season, which is going to lead to the next award you're going to mention here.
Yeah, and the guy that I kind of got to know a lot, he comes off of being the girls' coach at Freeport where they went to state like 2 years in a row. His son gets a form of cancer, so he takes off. The son's doing a lot better now, which is great news to hear. He decides to come back, 3rd coach in 3 years at Freeport, wins Coach of the Year, and that's Freeport's Ryan Pierce, who really flipped that program around pretty fast.
Yeah, and he deserved it for what they did.
You saw him, didn't you? In the regional.
That's a program that has been down for years now, and again, like you said, third coach in 3 years. No expectations going into this year. When you talk to people before the season, everybody assumed Freeport's just going to be down at the bottom where they usually were, and then, they finished above 500. Won the Stateline Challenge.
6-0.
Yeah, did well in the conference this year. Gave Belvedere all they could handle. In that regional semifinal, and if they could have pulled that one out, I think they would have done the same with Lutheran there. Really, it was a good team, but he did a good job, getting them all on the same page in short order and really performing this year. I think he deserved that.
And Offord, I think he really would have. He had a great year this year as a senior, but if he'd had, I think, Ryan Pierce for all 3 years.
Yeah.
Or 4 years, that would have been something else. I think.
That's the thing. Of course, they're trying to build for the future anyway, and maybe 2 years from now we'll be saying that about another group of players. But as good as he had that team playing this year, just imagine if he could have had them for a couple of years, and some of those kids, for 2 or 3 years, and what they could have maybe done this year.
And he's got some kids coming back. He's got Dimitri Offord's coming back. He's got some. They had a kid one time I don't know how tall he is. He's probably about 6'8", playing on the sophomore team. He tried a jam, and the only thing that didn't go in was he was trying to be really pretty, but that kid could fly up in the air.
Yeah.
So they're good. They've got that tradition. They won all those early state championships. Adolph Rupp, the world-famous coach, was at Kentucky, was there.
Yeah.
So Freeport's got a really good tradition, and Ryan Pierce was the right man at the right time.
I think so, yeah. It was a good hire. He did a good job this year, and the right choice for Coach of the Year. Obviously, Coach Ott did a great job, I think. It's easy to just say they were talented, and say, well, that's why they won. But, he had to work with them some. I think he had to get everybody on the same page there as well. When you got a lot of great players, you have to work to make sure that they'll work as a team. And I think Coach Ott did a good job with that this year. Coach Pearson and Belvedere, again, having a great season.
He's underrated too.
And I think in Coach Winters at Boylan, I think kind of went under the radar too. They got off to a bad start, but really finished well.
Nice group of kids too.
Yeah, their only losses down the stretch there the last month and a half or so were to Auburn. That's the only team that could beat them. So I think there's some coaches that did a good job, but I think Coach Pierce is the right choice.
Plus, our friend Gordy Casper was.
Well, I think that had a lot to do with the success there at Boylan.
We talk Hoosiers a lot this time of year.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you what, Giovanni, I'm kind of proud that he did as good as he did because he was our challenge MVP, and he well deserved it because you know what, he's one of those kids that you like because he just didn't want to score all the time. He does a lot of different things.
He did what the team needed him to do. If it was scoring in a game, he would get out there and score. But he often looked to try to get other people the ball and make the right play. And there were some times where I've seen, I'm sure you saw it a lot too, where a kid maybe ended up scoring a layup that they weren't expecting because he saw them cutting, and all of a sudden the ball's just right on him. And
he has some Fred moves to it.
Yeah, he does.
Do you think he does that way?
Yeah, he does.
That'll be the one thing for Freeport they'll have to worry about next year is find somebody to direct the band.
Yeah, well, it's sometimes that's as important as anything else. You're going to miss a player like that. I'm sure they can find players to score the points that he scored, but can you find somebody to handle the ball and do some of the other things that he did?
And I also have the Big Northern Conference all-conference team, but I promised my friend Dirk Campbell over at Lutheran, who is the AD and the president, he said, could you wait till after the season's over? So we may have to wait till another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I did see that the Big Northern, was it the East? One division, everybody was unanimous selection. I don't know if that's kind of like, they just said, okay, boom, 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 boom. Well, but I'll tell you what, I would take the Big Northern team that we'll post it when they get a chance. So.
Yeah, well, it's great players there, that's for sure.
Another sad thing really happened this week. This is something that puts basketball in perspective. The other night when it was Marengo and Aurora Central Catholic, there was a terrible accident with a lot of 16-year-old kids in a van, and the young man or woman, whoever was driving, drove through a stoplight and hit a semi, and two 16-year-old kids lost their lives. And I got to give hats off to Marengo last night. Their whole student body, the team, the coaches wore a white ribbon in honor of those kids. And you know what? Sometimes it's just good for us to sit back and say, just kind of like the stuff with Lauren Hill we talked about last week. Sometimes there are a few more things important in life than just the basketball.
There's a lot of things more important in life than basketball and sports. Yeah, that was a real sad situation. I know there was a pretty big outpour of support on Twitter that night, and then the next day, from a lot of different schools and teams and players. And yeah, that's tough. And that was classy by Marengo, because I think that's who they had played in the regional game. Yeah,
and the kids from Aurora Central Catholic had no idea that had happened,
right?
Until they got probably in the locker room.
Yeah, more than likely. So it's a very classy move on their part, and that's a tough situation to be in. And
everybody was talking, said, well, what was that kid doing out driving in fog? If you remember right, I looked out my window about the time that happened. There was no fog here.
Right.
And I'm sure maybe when they left Aurora there wasn't. If it was the fog like we had the other day, that was a terrible fog. And for a 16-year-old young man, or I think it was a young man driving it, that'd be a tough thing to handle. But, we're both dads. Can you imagine getting that call? I can't imagine.
Not at all,
No,
oh.
Very sad thing.
Yeah.
So thoughts and prayers go out to Aurora Central Catholic. It's really sad because that was supposed to be an exciting time for them.
Yeah.
And their team almost won that game against Marengo that night. Except for that Knobloch kid. I wish I'd have saw him now.
Yeah, he can shoot.
Yeah. So also, I was going to tell you, I'm going to get the NUIC all-conference team, but they're going to wait till season's done with Forston.
Gotcha.
Congratulations to them.
Congratulations to Forston. They're going to play for a third-place trophy, made it downstate again. Great year for them.
Yeah, they lost to Meridian yesterday.
They won the state title in football in Class 1A, and now they're going to be playing for a third-place trophy in basketball. That's a pretty good year in my book.
Yeah, they're going to play Ridgeview today.
Yeah.
Who lost to Brimfield. I don't know where Brimfield's at, do you?
No, I don't either.
Them 1A schools, they pop up.
Yeah, a lot of those.
Yeah. So, well, good luck to them. You know what, though? A lot of people say, man, we're going to have to play a third-place game, which I don't really like. But somebody does have a chance to win their last game.
Yeah, I think teams get up for that, and I think that's a good thing. They used to do that, actually, in the NCAA. I think they stopped that around 88 or 89.
Yeah.
And I can understand not doing it at that level, but, I think for the high school kids, it's good, because like you said, somebody gets to win their last game and get a trophy and all that, so it's going to feel good for somebody today.
Colton Bailing.
Yeah.
3-point. He's moving on. So is Tommy Sisk from Belvedere North. So a Belvedere kid and a Belvedere North kid will be down at state for the 3-point shootout.
There you go. And Colt, that was a name I was surprised I didn't see on the all-conference.
Yeah.
It's as a good player.
Good quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So good congratulations to both of those
certainly.
guys. So it's going to be good, and it should be a lot of fun to watch that. I love that 3-point shootout. They don't have that a lot of places.
It's always a lot of fun.
Okay, Mike Helfgott will be with us in the next portion of our Stateline Sports Hour. We'll see you in just a moment here on News Talk 1440 WROK.